Non-binary people, huh?
There's a whole variety of experiences that people have that cause them.
Okay, and there's already a flaw, like within this first like 5 seconds of watching this. Non-binary equals freedom. So, the problem with freedom, especially now, lately, and this YouTube video is 7 years old, the problem with freedom is that too much of it can lead to a lot of ambiguity, a lot of confusion, and a lot of illegitimacy because you're able to do whatever you want and get away with it, which is kind of symptoms that we're seeing right now in modern day culture.
To question, like, hey, maybe I don't actually fit into the definition of, man or woman.
And that's another one. As a person myself with thoughts and questions of my own, you should never be uncomfortable with a thought. And I know that sounds a little like out of the park here, but it's true. Like a thought essentially comes from you yourself. It doesn't come from anybody else, it comes from you. So for you to be uncomfortable with your own thinking kind of leads me to believe that you aren't somebody worth listening to.
And that there's something else.
No. It's not a gender identity.
And I identify as non-binary. I'm Lindsay and I identify as non-binary.
She looks
My
like
name's
she's just
Diane.
going through it.
I identify as non-gendered person. I'm
Ungendered?
Francois. I identify as genderqueer. My name
What?
is James and I identify as non-binary.
Non-binary is someone whose gender doesn't fall within the context of the binary that we set up in society.
I am not male, I'm not female, I'm somewhere floating around in there.
Okay, bro, that is consciousness, all right? That's what you are. Like, on a fundamental level, you're just consciousness. And consciousness itself does not have a gender. But as far as superficial aspects and aesthetics go, you'll look like a woman to me.
Means acknowledging a wider range of experience.
For me, it means that I'm not identified with any specific gender, like male, female, or other things.
Is part of a larger kind of goal of questioning these assumptions about gender and questioning why there only need to be two.
It gives me the
Okay, but why would you ever question that? Huh? What promotes it? What lures you into questioning your gender? And again, if you're uncomfortable with your thoughts and you're also uncomfortable with your body, why should I listen to you about anything about me? And why are you trying to promote this shit for children? That is so fucking stupid. It's not being authentic, it's being confused. Personal expression, okay, sure. Personal identity, everybody has that. Being authentic, look, personal identity does not center entirely around your genitals. It centers entirely around your confidence. It centers entirely around your nature. It centers entirely around your perspective. I mean, that type of identity, like, look, dude, it is literally written within Aristotle's laws of logic, of identity, actually, that if something is to identify by two or more things, then it does not really have an identity, or that an identity cannot be defined by two different things. That's not an identity. That's no identity. That's literally what trans people are. That's what non-binary people are. And that black lady who just said that shit that you just said, well, that's her. She just said that she doesn't identify as a guy or a girl. I'm just floating somewhere. With that being said, you're a non identity. That's what these people are. They're just a non identity.
freedom to express myself. If I wake up one day and I want to spike my hair and do punk rock makeup, I can do it.
Every couple of decades,
Okay, but you don't need to identify as a different gender to do that.
some designer decides that men's shorts are, suddenly
5 inches shorter or 5 inches longer. In the 70s, if you look at what men were wearing, they were like Rockettes, like shorts were up to here. And now
Is this really your excuse to
non-binary
justify
is freedom from
non-binary
that whole
shit?
game. It's like I don't care what the men's department at Marshall's suddenly has decided that like men need to wear. I'm gonna go for what makes me feel more authentic.
Again, you don't need to identify as non-binary to buy whatever the fuck you feel like wearing.
I tend to say gender is dependent on context and point of view.
To me, it just makes me comfortable.
I would love to argue that because gender is dependent entirely on nature and how one is physically established. That is what identifies a gender. If he has the physique of a man, but also a vagina, he is a non identity. If he has the physique of a man and a penis, that is, in fact, a man. If he is a man who is born with a penis and a vagina, that is a hermaphrodite. What part of that are we not getting? And again, this video is actually still old. I wanted to react to it.
That I can just be this body that I have. I identified as a cis gay male. Cisgender is when your gender identity aligns with the gender that you were assigned at birth based on your anatomy. I saw myself as a cis man and just thought, well, I paint my nails and I wear lipstick, but I'm a cis man. And I knew what genderqueer was and non-binary. I knew of them. And I was like, I support it, I love it, but it's over there. That's not me. I identified as male before. I didn't really ever feel comfortable fitting into the masculine or male environments or just seeing myself as a man. I have always had.
Okay, you're gay. Then I would assume, then you're just gay.
Questions as a child. I always would put on my mother's makeup and her lipstick.
I identified quite a while before I came out to people.
I started identifying as non-binary when I was 17. I just knew that calling myself a woman and calling myself a girl did not feel accurate and did not feel good and did not feel like a home to me at that time in my life anymore.
So yeah, where it gets complicated, it's been complicated from the beginning, dude. And there's no logic to it. All right, and I'm going to stand on logic with this one. Logic is literally something that is designed to distinguish reality for us. It's a psychological method that's designed to help us, reason with reality so that we can actually make sense of it and identify it. Where it gets complicated isn't how other people see you, it's how you see you. And they almost had me because I sat there, and that's why I waited like a minute ago. Like, you're a cis male, right? And I'm sitting here calling you gay, but you don't want to be called gay, or it was somebody else who was like, I can't remember. It was a guy who didn't fit in with the masculine era, but he also didn't he just didn't fit in with the guy. So he was like, okay, fuck it, I'm non-binary. Like, what are you saying though? Like, then what exactly are you saying if you're a guy but you don't fit in with guys? Like, what the fuck does that mean? That's just like a non-identity.
Most people are still very confused about trans identity, non-binary, gender fluid.
Even though it's 2019, it's not something that everybody runs and like, oh, you're genderqueer, yay, hugs and kisses, we love you still.
The hardest thing about coming out at 17 is no one believes you. Everyone is like, wow, that's a really cute phase you're having.
Even when I'm saying
what I identify with, people still have a specific imagination of what that means.
Most people are going to assume that you're one of two genders, a man or a woman, and so every single day you have to be correcting them and you have to be declaring that you're non-binary to
Way too much work just to identify yourself.
pretty much every new person that you meet.
People often misgender me. Like the second I leave New York, I get called ma'am, like to my face.
A lot of times people will get pronouns right twice, and then I find it's often the third time that people start slipping.
A lot of people think that we're transitioning for some reason.
Some people say, oh, so are you going through transition right now? And some people ask me, so do you still have a vagina?
Well, okay, look. Honestly, I don't think it's anybody's business to be questioning what you're doing down there because at the end of the day, it's not like what they're doing is physically hurting us. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can do whatever the fuck you feel like doing so long as it abides by morals and is in accordance with nature. And they get the morals part right, but as far as abiding by what's like, as far as abiding what is in accordance with nature, what they do is mutilation. And they think that this is just okay. They think that this is just what it means to them. And it's not. Like, what you're saying is literally a disruption of the dichotomy of us as a species. I mean, to be honest, I don't even think we should call them transsexuals anymore. I don't think we should call them that. I don't think we should call them non binary. I don't think we should call them any of that because they're always constantly making up new and different genders every single month. Why not just refer to them as non identities? You are just a non identity. You have a name and we will refer to you by that, but as far as sexually, that's a non identity.
Simplest way to ask about gender if you don't know someone is,
Hey friend, what are your pronouns? That's
Nobody wants to know that though. Nobody's even obligated to it. Not able to sit there and call you your pronouns when you're the one who's making things confusing and difficult on purpose. Just because you want to be called something, are you serious? You guys really don't have a right to complain about shit.
it.
A lot of us are very different. Some people are like, don't misgender me, and it's a big thing. And I understand that, really, I do.
Personally, I'm always very open and happy to talk to people about it.
But, like, seriously though, like, you can't get mad at us for assuming when it's just nature. Like, these are axioms that we're dealing with right now. To be born a man or to be born a female, not to just grow up and be like, oh no, I can be this, I can be whatever I want, because no, physically you can't. Maybe in, the mental space, sure. Maybe in the sense of fantasy, yeah. But as far as physically, like a physical identity, no. No. Let's just make it easier and simplify it. You guys are not promoting anything worthwhile.
I remember a few times I went on job interviews and I dressed like how I am. And I did very, very well in the first interview. And they're like, oh, you did so well. Just when you come next time, can you dress like a boy? It's especially challenging in dating.
No one really knows how to deal with you and whether they're allowed to be attracted to you, really.
Some people, they just say they want to date men.
the worst is whenever someone's like, well, yeah, but you have a penis, right? People will be very fixated with anatomical gender.
You can't be seen as heterosexual, you can't be seen as homosexual. And so when you try to date a girl, it's like, you're too feminine. You're not masculine enough. And you try to date a guy who's gay and he's like, you're not masculine enough, or you're too feminine or something. It's always something.
Well, shit. Well, I mean, of course, there's always something. You guys make up a new gender every fucking month. And not to mention, like, the fact that you guys are still doing this shit 7 years later and where it's gotten us today, it is so fucking abysmal out here trying to do anything with anyone. People are just so confused on what they need to respect and what they can't respect. It's so dumb. And again, this is America, a country, lest we forget, built entirely and purely off of discrimination. There is a word out there designed to undermine everyone. And those who are openly able to dislike you, that's how life should be. People should openly be able to dislike you regardless of your sexual orientation or whatever labels or pronouns you wish to be called. But nobody's obligated to that, and that's what you guys lack to see. Not to mention, you guys really can't complain about shit. You people take it personally and you get all mad because somebody calls you a man or female or some bullshit like that. Mexicans get deported all the fucking time. Men and women, well, and children all get raped and sold across the world. Black people were slaves for 400 years, having their children get fed to alligators and getting lynched from trees and shit. Not that I'm somebody who resonates with any of that because I can't use it as like an excuse to, justify my anger or anything, but you get what I'm saying. Other people have suffered far more than you guys, and all you guys ever do is sit there and bitch about how somebody calls you a man or a woman. You don't have a right to complain.
I think people's knowledge of this is definitely getting a lot better with time.
We're becoming more relatable. People are seeing us for who we are. And so I think that brings about this general air of acceptance.
I think the future of gender identity, hopefully, is one where we don't force the binary on everybody.
Which is something you guys are doing right now. You're forcing it onto children. And I'm glad you can see that. I'm glad you're actually on our side when it comes to that. Because this whole non-binary bullshit, this whole transsexual thing, they're literally trying to teach kids about sexual promiscuity. They're trying to teach them about sex toys. And it's because of how free your non-binary adjectives, non-binary fucking pronouns have made everything. It's turned everything loose. And because of it, because there's no order to that ethic, it is all chaos.
I think the future of gender identity is so much more like colorful and wide and different and like varied as we think it even can be.
I hope that the future will move towards more of individual expression rather than this mob mentality to follow the crowd to be like everybody else.
And on that point, I actually do agree with them. Because in all honesty, everybody should just be themselves. And that's why nobody had a problem with them from the beginning. It's like, well, you're your own individual. Trans people are some of the easiest people to talk to. It's not like I'm going to sit there and question you on your genitals because I don't care. I really don't. But if the conversation turns down that route, that avenue, don't be surprised. And if I call you dude or bro, like, forgive me, man. I'm not used to transsexuals like that.
I definitely wish that we can all just pass through this phase of trying to categorize people and just take them as what they are.
Being able to reclaim our narratives, I think that's the next step, is that trans voices are the ones speaking for trans people and non-binary voices become the ones speaking for non-binary people.
Wow. Well, that was a very interesting one. And honestly, right at the end, I have to agree with like the last 30 seconds of all of that. That's the only part I can really agree with. And that's because people should be themselves, but only as far as a personality goes. Not as far as identifying as a million different fucking things, because there's already a million identities within every single person. But that not all of it is centered entirely around sex or gender. That personality is identified by heart. That it's all identified by perspective and how you express yourself, not because of your sex. I just feel like it's a huge leap to mutilate yourself for the sake of personal validation. I just don't think that I feel like it's a very unethical thing to do. Like, isn't it's unethical. It's highly unethical to chop your genitals off and be something else. That to me just doesn't make sense. God makes no mistakes. And you're free to do what you want, but I feel like there just needs to be more restraints, major restraints on the entire practice of transitioning. Like, you can't, like, we should make it illegal to transition if you're under the age of 25. Now, if you have already transitioned, like, not that those people can get arrested or anything like that, but the person who performed it, who did it for them, has to get arrested. But like, if you're over the age of 20, like if you're over the age of 25, then it's like, well, your brain is fully developed. You can do whatever you want. But that's all I can really say to that whole thing. Again, this came out, not 7 years ago, 5 years ago. That was all I really had to say about this. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm out.